ever work a job where the boss is just kind of a jerk? And how badly did you want to just tell them off and quit and just never see them again? Or even better, what if you could screw them over in the process? Vitriol is a death metal band from Portland featuring the infamous Kyle Rasmussen and, as of recently, Keith Merrow, who has, over the years, really made a name for himself in the guitar community. And there's a bassist and a drummer as well, and all of which, besides Kyle, have only been in the band for less than a year. So what happened? With their now new lineup and their new album was making headlines, they set out on their first headlining tour.
Hey, what's up? This is Keith. This is my good buddy Kyle, and we're in Vitriol.
Well, about 3 weeks into the tour, we see Keith Merrow post this. He messed around and found out. Sorry, Vitriol fans, we had to abandon him at a gas station in Vermont. Myself, Andy, Brett, and Matt will not take Kyle's cowardly and weak outbursts of misplaced anger. We gave everything we had and have now left you with nothing. Mass exodus. That was a pretty badass line. This was the darkest day of my music career to date. Okay, so what actually happened? Well, Kyle decided to tell his side of the story with two 20-minute videos on Instagram. Now, I'm not going to make you sit through the whole 40 minutes, but let's just look at, the gist of what he's saying.
I wanted to give some time before I made any statement. I was conflicted. I felt like I owed it to the fans to let them know as soon as possible that the tour was discontinuing.
One thing that he notes is the use of a...
So about once or twice a tour, I can't use the real word because I'll probably get censored somehow or flagged, but I like to indulge in nose beers. So we play our show in New York, and I managed to get some nose beers, and we all indulged.
Ooh, probably shouldn't be mentioning that other specific people were partaking, but I don't really think he's that concerned with that right now.
Staff, dude. Professionals, finally, dude. Professionals.
Yep, nose beers. That adds up.
So I hear them in that kind of almost paranoid state. We're about to cross the Canadian border, and they are worried about, of course, what's in the RV. And they're like, oh my God, we're going to have to throw this out. We're going to have to throw that out. And I was like, guys, can we just chill the fuck out? As a guy who's been over the Canadian border 100 times, they're not looking through the cabinets for a vape pen.
Okay, yeah, any touring band knows that before you cross into Canada or come back to the States, you got to make sure that you don't have anything that you're not supposed to have. So really, Kyle was being a little bit ridiculous here, and the rest of the guys were thinking correctly.
Keith got a little defensive, asked me to not judge them. I said, I'm not judging you. I'm just trying to offer my perspective to help you guys maybe feel a little less concerned. At that point, Keith came into the bedroom. The curtain of in the back of the RV, there's a private bedroom where I was resting after that very long night.
Oh, of course, the vocalist gets the private room in the back.
And he comes into the room, and he's just kind of, in his big, tall way, looking down at me. And I was like, bro, now's not the time, dude. So he leaves, and he comes back again. And I said, Keith, you really got to get out of my space. Now, Shocker, the guy who dedicated his life to a band called Vitriol, has anger problems. I've done everything I can to be as open and honest as I can in preparing people for these slip-ups, and that doesn't mean I'm not responsible for the consequences of those slip-ups. It's still me.
Okay, so he seems to be taking responsibility for his actions. That's good.
That's when I got very upset. And I screamed, and I said, how dare you, how fucking dare you try to ruin this by goading me by egging me on to do something that you've seen me do.
So he's saying Keith basically egged him on, but how? I mean, just standing there, like in his space, just standing there. That's it.
So anyway, I called him a fuck. I said, "You fuck. How dare you? Get the fuck out of here." I didn't threaten him physically. I didn't touch him.
You become verbally abusive because somebody's standing in your room?
He leaves. I try to go back to sleep. At this stage, I'm not thinking that the situation is that dire.
Not that... Well, why did you scream at him then?
I wake up, and now Maggie is coming in the RV telling me that everyone is packing their things. I get up, I sit in the passenger seat, I light up a cigarette, and I see the guys walk over to the driver's side. They open the door. Brett just shouts, "You can't talk to us like that." And I said, "Talk to you guys like that?" I yelled at Keith.
Kyle may have just been talking to Keith in that instance, but I'm sure that the reason that the rest of the band members spoke up to him about this, you know, don't talk to us that way, is because in the past they have been talked to that way.
And I was like, what about the physical invasion and not respecting when I asked him to leave the space when he was being hostile? Like, is that not?
Nope, that doesn't justify verbal abuse. You could have just ignored him, but instead you chose to escalate the situation.
That's when Keith, when I didn't offer a apology, that's when the situation went nuclear. He started using some very colorful language, and he told me to get out of the RV and that he was going to stab me in the neck. And when I didn't get out of the RV, he pushed my girlfriend to the side. He pushed her out of the way to grab me by the jacket and try to pull me out of the vehicle. I said no. He said I paid for this RV, which he didn't. Our management paid for the RV. What he meant by that is Keith spent far too much money on toys because he thought he was going to come into this band and put in a bunch of money and we'd be big old rock stars and he could live his dream.
Kyle, what are you doing, bro? You're shaming him for bringing gear and amenities for your band? That's not a good look.
Was I the catalyst for it? Was my rage? Was the intensity of my rage the match? Of course. And that's on me.
Okay, once again, you know, he's taking a little bit of responsibility, but then he goes on this whole spiel about how it's their inner childs that are fighting and that Kyle's this, you know, symbol for this deep issue inside of Keith's life.
I saw in Keith's eyes a very wounded child, and I don't mean that in like a belittling way.
And for a second, I want to talk about the history of this band, Vitriol. We know this is an all-new lineup, and that's because last year, Kyle took out a drummer and a bass player, and halfway through the tour, the bass player quit. And then after the tour was over, the drummer quit. Vitriol, although typically just a 4-piece band, has actually gone through 17 members over the years that have all came and went except for Kyle. Whereas on the other hand, Keith has only really had a fallout with one band, Alluvial. And if you look at the post, it seems like they really actually left on pretty good terms. So just by looking at the history alone, is it likely that Keith's the problem, or is it Kyle?
Trying to find my way to the empathy to neutralize the situation. And I told Maggie, I'm going to take a chance. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to hug Keith and I'm going to tell him I love him. And if he swings on me, he swings on me. So I get out of the RV and I go to follow Keith, and he is actively walking toward a state trooper's car. These men decided to get the police involved in a personal, non-violent matter. I mean, I guess it became potentially violent with Keith's threat. But while they were high on...
Well, the trooper got involved because you refused to leave the RV. Also, Kyle keeps on mentioning that everybody was intoxicated besides him. He keeps on spreading this in the story to try and make us, view them in a bad light.
We pack up our stuff. I get out of the RV, and the state trooper standing there. Hey, what's going on? I I said, I'm getting out of here. And he said, oh, so you're willing to leave the RV? I said, absolutely. I was just packing up my stuff. I'm out of here. So he turns to the guy and said, it seems like they're willing to leave. Even though I knew the answer, I felt like I owed it to everything to ask. And I said, are you guys 100% sure this is what you want to do? And they said, yes. They wanted to take everything from me. And they took nothing from me and so much from everyone around me. I have my work. I have the two loves of my life here. And I have my integrity.
It was weird. He was like going on a rant about how, oh, this hasn't affected me at all. Nice try. But then that doesn't look good to the fans because it's like, oh, you're going to be like cocky about this? Like, dude, how about the fact that we're all getting screwed? But luckily, at the end, he caught that. And he goes, oh, this isn't a good look. He's like, well, don't let me act like I'm not going to be devastated. I'm totally devastated.
I'm not pretending that I'm not devastated about not being able to get up on stage and play tonight.
And then he starts crying. Like, how did you go from you didn't affect me at all, good luck, to just crying? Like, what?
So you didn't take anything from me, ultimately. But you did take things from our friends in Weeping. You did take things from every supporting regional band that was excited to open these shows. You took things from the fans that were excited to see us.
That's true that, all those people are affected negatively, and that sucks. But you know who is affected the most? The guy who just had his whole band quit on him publicly for the world to see. You know what they took from you? They actually did take something from you. They took the tour from you, and they probably took a chunk of your fan base.
They didn't just put me in this situation. They put a loving, caring woman who was looking for a new purpose and a new thing to thrive in.
What? You're saying that her new purpose is to be on tour with her boyfriend? Isn't that a bit conceited? Also, why do you have your girlfriend and your dog on tour with you? There's a reason that the rest of us don't do that, and part of it is courtesy to the other band members.
You took her and you left her alone in the snow.
What? They didn't take her anywhere, and she wasn't left alone. She was left with you and your dog. All right, I'm coming up with a new one here. Guilt farming.
You did that to a dog.
The dog was with you and your girlfriend. Guilt farming.
A dog that you are now coming out and telling people that I don't take care of, that I don't take care of myself. I mean, I'm on tour. I haven't showered. Not great. I'm not stoked about it.
That's true. Showers on tour are pretty seldom. But if you're smelly and we get to somewhere with a shower, you better take that shower or the rest of the band's going to be real annoyed with you.
But if I didn't take care of myself, would I have taken 3 showers when I got to the hotel yesterday? And Keith took 1.
What? What?
But if I didn't take care of myself, would I have taken 3 showers when I got to the hotel yesterday?
3 showers? Like in a row? Yeah. Keith is the weird one here for only taking 1 shower.
He's telling my sister that I don't brush my teeth. If I don't with my teeth, why are you getting on me all the time about my floss picks sitting all over the fucking RV?
Ew. Used floss picks just sitting around the RV? That's gross, dude. Pick up after yourself.
What a tremendous, cruel irony that these people are trying to sell a story to bolster their credibility.
What? They're just stating the bad things that you did so that people understand why they left.
They know that they left an innocent woman and a dog and the guy who invited them on this adventure in the snow because I yelled at him and I reminded him of his past. Nonviolent threat.
That's total reversal, blaming the victim. You shouldn't be so mad that I just yelled at you. Wanting the gaslight?
They robbed everyone of that tour.
No, Kyle. It was your actions that robbed everyone of that tour.
They couldn't even just quit when it was done.
No, Kyle. You just couldn't hold your tongue until the tour was done.
If you want to talk about psychological well-being, I am very well medicated and I see my therapist every single week, even on tour.
Good. He proceeds to blame the rest of the guys and says that they don't believe in therapy and blah, blah, blah.
You said it yourself, Keith. You said, we gave him everything, which you didn't. You didn't give me. You gave yourself, you invested in yourself and your own dream. And I made the sacrifices throughout my life. I didn't play it safe. I wasn't a fucking shill. And you're going to try to tag a trailer, not literally, but figuratively, to my sacrifices, funnel a bunch of money in so you can ensure that you can play rock star. And reality didn't give Keith the validation he needed.
Okay, so now he's just taking like personal shots at Keith and getting nastier as the video go on and taking less and less responsibility for his own actions.
I'm doing, even after all of this, I'm doing Keith a favor of not really, ultimately out of respect for his family. I love his family. I'm not going to share information that I think could really tank his career. I'll leave it at that.
Then why bring it up, Do you even have this information, or is it just garbage?
For a number of reasons, I think, even if I find guys that are willing to try this after 15 bodies, that seems pretty far-fetched. And even if I do cobble the guys together, is an industry really interested in Vitriol anymore at this point? I think it would take a while to earn the trust of the industry again. But I want you to know, you have my absolute word that I did everything I possibly could to salvage this tour for you guys. And I just couldn't. You just can't reason with the unreasonable.
Oh, being unreasonable. Like how all you had to do was apologize, and then the whole tour could have finished. But instead, you were being unreasonable. Now, of course, the comments section for this has gone pretty crazy. While I do respect your honesty about your anger issues, the constant meandering of the story, blatant weaponization of the inner child learned in therapy, body language, and pauses in cadence at certain moments leads me to believe that this is a warped account of what had actually happened, and an attempt to manipulate the public into giving sympathy when this is not the first time that there has been turmoil in the Vitriol lineup, as well as multiple anecdotes across many platforms of people around you being endangered by your inability to bring yourself within your window of tolerance over the littlest things. Damn, that was a lot. Kyle has actually set up a GoFundMe if you'd like to donate to his shower fund. Do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, just click it really quick. Nothing will happen. You'll get like $50 or something. And then watch this video right here. And then check out this video. And then just watch more. And I love you. And thank you. Thanks for watching. And I'll see you next time. Bye.